pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, I read the minutes.
Yes,
Sounds like it was a good meeting there, so.
Looked over the meager minutes.
Pretty straightforward stuff.
All right.
You want to make a
motion that we approve the minutes as written from the August 13th, 2024 public meeting?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Signed Bill. Let's move on for you. Did anyone go to the photo show at the Whitney on Sunday?
I did not make it.
I heard it was good.
Fantastic.
Good.
Oh, terrific.
Very good. So the next thing is the Mountain Garden Club and Heritage Trail. So Melinda Marcello is here.
My official name is Melinda
Foley Marcello.
That's quite all right.
Yep,
Quite
sorry.
all right.
Just
So I am part of the Mountain Garden Club, and I have been taking care of the garden out front
Thank
for
you.
about 4 years.
It looks nice.
Thank you. It's, you know, I've done a lot of reading as to what the history of it is and tried to educate myself because myself and another person have made a proposal to the garden club to expand it and change it a little bit. It's getting very old and tired. There are plants in the wrong places because the tree has grown so much. I had to yank out the plants that were near the sign because they were constantly growing up and covering the sign. So I took those right out, and I didn't put anything in there because there's no watering there. So my reason for being here is twofold. First, to just tell you what we want to do and make sure I go through the proper channels before we just start ripping things up and whatever. And second is to talk about the watering system, because I know the town now has taken over the payments for starting it and for starting and stopping it in the spring and the fall. So it would have to be extended. So we'd need some money just to figure out, you know, how to extend it, and not greatly, and it also has a hole in it, so it would need a little patch job or whatever. So before I go ahead and do that, I just wanted to make sure there was funding for that. So I'm not sure.
And we don't have an idea of cost yet because you
I
haven't
don't,
gone on that
exactly.
step
I didn't
yet.
want to go ahead unless I don't have no idea really. I don't think it would be maybe a couple $100, but
Yeah, I'm sure we
I don't know
can,
why I pulled that out of my head.
I'm sure we can squeeze a couple $100
Does
from
our
her.
administrative assistant.
Yeah.
and
I
administrative
wouldn't go
assistant.
ahead unless I told you exactly what it was going to be.
Right. And who do we use for that flushes it?
Bernie Edwards.
Okay.
He's from
Yeah.
Madison, I think.
Yeah.
I've never met him. I talk to him, you know, each year, but
Yeah.
maybe this fall we'll meet up. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
and
want
you know,
to-
depending on what the timing is, it may even fall into next spring that they
Yes.
do it too, so it
exactly.
may
If
even
you
be
wouldn't
next
get it
year.
started, and what we're going to do this fall, I should show you the plan.
Okay.
What we're going to do this fall is just enlarge it a little bit, so change the edging of it,
Yeah.
and
Make it wider.
yes, make it wider.
Yeah.
This is the sign,
Mhm.
and that's the rock.
Okay.
So it's just going to be a little wider.
Mm.
And what our goal is to make it a pollinator garden,
Mhm.
so that it
Great.
can be an educational thing as well.
Fantastic.
And put signs and sort of advertise it as such, so
Nice.
people will be able to, you know, start learning more about the natural environment and
Yes,
what we should be doing.
I love that. What about the tree? Do we know if it needs to be trimmed any more than it already is?
I
Because
don't even know how you would trim that, right?
I
Just limbing it up, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I know when you trim trees the right way, they really they flourish.
This
So
tree's flourishing.
It is so much.
I don't think you need to trim a maple tree. I
Okay.
think that, you know, they maybe would just take a few of the branches off on the bottom, but
Okay.
I don't think there's any trimming
And
to
we
do.
can have maybe Ryman or somebody look at that from Saco Tree Works just to see if it needs any pruning or anything
Sure.
like that too, and maybe include that in
Sure.
the budget. And even though it looks healthy and it's growing up, sometimes just thinning it out on
Yeah.
top will help it
Okay.
grow up more so it's not intrusive on your garden so
Okay,
much.
great.
But it'll also help your planning of what you're
Okay.
planting, so
Yeah, we're
because
gonna
of the
just
shade.
sort of assume that's what it is.
Okay.
but.
I think this is a great idea personally. Any thoughts, guys?
I just wanted just a piece of history. Just
good.
to let more
That's
people
what
know.
I'm fascinated by.
The stone out there
Yes.
with Peter's name on it.
Yes.
Peter actually picked that stone out before he passed. Before he even knew that he
It's
was
a
sick.
beautiful stone.
He and Reggie Ilsley, another fellow who used to live here in town, and myself when I was selectman way back,
Okay.
we were at Pat Donnelly's house at a trailer on Route 16, and we're just kind of kicking stones, talking, and Reggie said, that'd make a great gravestone or something like that, I'm talking like that, right? So I said, okay, so then unfortunately Peter passed. Arthur Fernald was our road agent at the time, and I said, Arthur, go over there and get that stone and bring it up here.
Awesome, that's
And
perfect.
the rest of it is,
Well, he's
well,
not
history.
buried. He's not buried.
No. I mean, it was just, so, no, he's
Yeah,
not.
that's
No,
what
he's in the
He's looking
cemetery.
down smiling.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So just to inform you, we do want to continue our plans up to around the stone. There should be some plantings around the stone.
Sure.
It
Yeah.
just feels like it's very stark right there.
Yeah.
So anyway, next year I'll be back.
Could you plant a bottle of rum there? People like rum.
We certainly
Any,
can.
any thoughts on that?
You're gonna plant in the spring or fall?
We might plant a few things this fall if we can get a hold of them,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but mostly in the spring.
Yeah.
Like bulbs or?
What, there already are bulbs up there,
Yeah.
which we'll have to move a little bit, but we could definitely plant more.
And are you guys gonna be the ones that get the sod out of the way and fortify whatever needs to be done and all that? So
Yeah.
200-ish for the water system.
Yeah, as soon as I get a hold of him, I'll have him come and we'll figure that out.
Other expenses that you foresee?
The garden club said that they would cover the price, the plantings,
Okay,
so that was good. That's a bigger expense.
Mhm.
excellent. Any soil needs or anything, like if there is a branch that comes off the tree, who's gonna do that, or just?
Right,
somebody
we've never
who's-
done anything that I know about, because
Yeah.
I've only done this 4 years. As far as the tree goes, maybe that would be you.
Yeah.
The town would take care of the tree.
Yeah, and probably not a lot you can do to reduce that shadow print, but
Right.
No.
It's gonna get bigger. It's gonna get bigger.
It's a good thought.
it's a pretty small amount that you're talking about, even though it's just an idea of 200 or so.
As
I don't
soon
know if
as
somebody
I,
gave you an idea. that-
no, I just
No.
pulled that out of
Yeah.
my head, so I really don't have any idea.
Yeah. So what do you guys want to do? Do you want to make a formal motion and second with a dollar amount attached to it, or
I don't think we're there
what are
yet.
we thinking?
I think that we give
Just like
the, I think
tacit
we sort of,
approval, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's
just go
good.
ahead, keep doing research.
Sure.
I'll come back to
Yes.
the next meeting with a number.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's the important thing for us to know.
Yeah.
And then timing too, if it's
Yeah.
going to be next fiscal year versus
Or
this
this one,
fiscal year.
okay.
Yep.
And attract
And of
some
course-
hummingbirds too, huh?
Yeah,
That'd be
hummingbirds,
awesome.
bees, butterflies.
And of course, if anybody sees this, they just might want to volunteer some money. You
That's
never
right.
know.
That's
These things
right.
happen.
That's very true in this town.
You hear me?
But I have volunteers to do all the digging and all
Yeah.
that.
Terrific.
So,
Great.
yeah.
Well, thanks
Do
for
you
all
want
the
a copy
time
of
and
this?
effort you put into this.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Do you have a copy?
Yeah, you can have that.
Oh, perfect, yes,
Okay.
I'll make sure it goes in the file with this, so,
Great.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, whenever you're ready to bring another quote, just ask Julie to be put on the agenda and we'll go
Awesome.
from there.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for all your
much,
work.
Linda.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
That's the closet.
That's the closet, that's the door to go out.
You-
You are not
I
the
was saying
first one to
closet,
do
listen.
that. You're not the first one. There's 8 people in that closet.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melinda.
I can't fire after 2 weeks.
Okay, the Benoits are here, and we have the issue of the blasting that's been going on Balsam Road. So are you guys familiar with this through the
I've
emails
been
that
following
we
the
received?
emails, yeah.
So we have a site disturbance ordinance that requires a landowner to have a site disturbance plan, but we have never had eyes on the plan. And Kevin Bennett has also been involved in this too, and I believe he has not seen the plan as well, but knows it exists. Burr, do you have any initial comments to start with on this?
Just the way that site disturbance ordinance is put together, is you just have to have a plan. It doesn't say it even has to be a written plan for that matter. It doesn't have to be a drawing plan. You just have to have some plan for it. And I think it was originally intended so that if something comes up, they can go to the people and say, "Where's your plan? What are you doing?" You know what I mean?
Okay.
So there's not a lot of teeth in that ordinance, I guess is the that.
Yeah. And they do have a building permit for the driveway, and they do have a building permit for the building that they're doing, or does the blasting have to do with a building, or does it have to do with the driveway, do you know?
I don't know if they have, do you know if they have a building right now?
I don't, is it, sorry, what's the name of, do you know the name?
Adam
Is it
McNeil?
Adam? Yeah,
Adam
He
McNeil?
does
I
have
thought
a-
you said they
I
did
don't, yeah,
have a building permit
I
as
don't
well.
know if Kevin has approved it, but they've submitted it. And they've also, they're filling out a new driveway permit application, because they're putting in a new culvert. So, and they're supposed to meet with Gary up there about the culvert.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a couple things going on. Number one is that they were blasting and disturbing the neighbors, and unfortunately there was disturbance, but I think what we should do is ask Mr. McNeil if we can get a copy of his site disturbance plan. So that's my number one recommendation.
Mhm.
Number two recommendation would be totally off of this property, but in the ordinance itself, saying that they need to have a site disturbance plan, and it needs to be submitted with either the building permit or submitted upon beginning of the site disturbance. I don't know how to word that, but I think that's something that we should, like Burr said, put some teeth in the ordinance so we can require that. I don't know if we ask Mr. O'Neill right now if he would give us a copy of that, but I think it would be certainly a nice gesture if we did ask him and he gave that to us. However, it doesn't really require that he gives us a copy.
Now, McNeil is the blaster. He's the guy that's doing
He's
the
the
blasting.
owner of the property, so yes.
Okay, and I know that Kevin spoke to the guy who's doing the blasting, and
Right.
he's expanded the perimeter to make sure that more people know about what's happening, after, once they start doing it. But it doesn't go to your question and the fact that our ordinance may be lacking a little bit of teeth
Yeah.
that Burr had mentioned. So
When that, just if I can interrupt for a second, when the site disturbance ordinance was developed, I actually worked with the planning board on it, and we had a regular ordinance that had like a requirement for an application, and there was like 2 or 3 different levels depending on whether it was minor or how expensive it was.
Mhm.
So it was all like written out what you needed to do when submitting a plan, and plans will be reviewed. But right at the last minute, the planning board said they just didn't want to be that sort of controlling or restrictive, so they just cut it right back to this language. And so it helps you in a situation where there's a problem, but not a lot. I know when I review septic system designs, I usually have a note on there that if I see anything that's significant, like this is one, it'll say you have to have a site disturbance plan on it. I
Right.
just don't have any way to say you have to submit it or it has to be reviewed, or it's just not in the zoning ordinance. I don't have any
Yeah.
method to do that.
When was that ordinance put into place, back?
I want to say probably.
It would be in the green book, that's, you have.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Frank knows, 2009.
Yeah.
March 2009.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so,
15 years.
um,
We're going to building permits.
all right. So then, has the blasting stopped? Is it done yet? No.
They probably have done.
Okay. So, Kevin's not here today, but
Couldn't be here, no.
But I think let's have Kevin reach out to them since he's already communicated with the owner and ask them to please present their site disturbance plan. And are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, it seemed like most of the stuff on the site disturbance plan was more kind of focused on runoff and vegetation and the hydraulic stuff and sediment control and stuff like that was what I picked up when I went through it, which is fine. But now we're down to 2 levels of disturbances, minor and major. I mean, if you're blasting, I'm going to put it right into a major category,
right.
even though it doesn't, it talks about construction access and everything like that. And the very last element in the major site disturbance, it talks about how it's often helpful to submit a concise narrative describing the effect of the proposed development on abutting property. And I just, I understand that it's often helpful to submit a concise narrative as not shall, you know, and require. So I would, this is regarding major site disturbances in the ordinance, yeah. So, I mean, I would like to, you know, really encourage these owners to, you know, do that, to put together a concise narrative and provide it to the town and share it with your abutters. And these, like we live in neighborhoods, and you know, there's a neighborly way to, you know, make sure that everybody understands what's going on, when it's happening, and why it's happening, and just,
And
you
for
know,
how
good
long,
neighborly rather than going right to ordinance violation or vagueness allows me to do whatever I want. And just, that's my 2 cents.
Yep, I'm on the page with you. I think if we ask them for that information and then share that as it needs to be shared amongst who it's going to affect, which would normally be the neighbors, of course be the abutters. So moving from that step forward, and have you talked to the owners at all, Mr. or Mrs. Benoit?
I haven't talked to the owners. I did talk to the building inspector.
Okay.
And very briefly, you got my email.
Yes.
The building inspector back in June said he'd keep his ear to the ground.
Yeah.
And, you know, we drove up last Wednesday, all the equipment's there, the big mats and all that stuff. And I called them up the next morning and I said, did they file a site plan with the town as they're supposed to, or consult with the town as the site plan? He says, no. And he says, I have no jurisdiction because they haven't pulled the building permit. So that's a little bizarre in a way, because this ordinance, if interpreted that way, and I admit, by the way, it doesn't have much teeth in it, but it does have standards for major site disturbance, which this is. It's over 10,000 square feet. It's less than,
Is it?
you know, given the grade and all of that. It's a major disturbance. So nothing's been filed with the town. The town building official seems like a nice guy. He's very responsive. He's polite. He says, I got no jurisdiction over this unless somebody pulls a building permit. Well, why would you ever pull a building permit first? You just blast the whole place up. Also, if I'm going to do a subdivision, you know, I mean, under that interpretation, before I come in for another permit, I can do whatever I want. I got blasted top off a mountain, no matter how many, you know, houses are at the bottom of town roads and all that. The sediment control and all those things, hydraulics, but to make sure the roads below don't wash out and all of that. So I think, it sounds to me like, first of all, there's supposed to be a written plan. It's got the various standards in there. There's no teeth to this thing. And since 2019, sounds to me like you've had an ordinance with absolutely no teeth governing something that's very important. The economics now is such that it makes sense to develop these lots that have very steep slopes and beautiful views if you clear all the trees and all of that stuff. So for years, it probably the economics went there because the values of the properties went as high and so forth. So you're going to see more and more of this. The road right below me, middle mountain, has been blasted there, and there's mats over there.
I'm going to stop you so we don't get off track here, because I want to make sure that we cover this. But I think we're pretty much on the same track. Number one, making sure that we get the site plan, the disturbance plan, number one, and then we'll go from there to see what the big plan is for that property and how long it's going to go on and what their intent is.
It's too late for me, because
well,
what I'm doing is saying for future town folks, we should have,
and that's my
we've
number
been here
two,
since 2014, love the area.
Yes.
I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but there should be an ordinance with teeth for this type of
so that's
thing.
my number two, and I'm going to stop you there because we're going to stay on track. Number two is we will come to the table with some housekeeping for the ordinance that does require the site disturbance plan, and like you said, major or minor, you know, when you're talking about the magnitude that you are talking about for your neighbor, that's major. So we'll get some teeth into that ordinance. And the other thing is, I do want to make sure that we follow up if there is a requirement for a building permit, and that would be another question for Kevin, whether or not they should have one at this point. Because I thought, I'm maybe confused, but I thought I read they did submit something for a building permit, or they still have not?
No, they have submitted an application. I don't know if Kevin has approved it.
Okay, so we'll see what
Yeah.
that's involved in
Yeah.
as well when we look at that.
Or do they do blasting for septic designs? Is that, do you know that? Like,
Do
Oh, yeah,
they
it's-
blasting for it?
yeah, is that why they're blasting?
No, no.
Okay,
absolutely
I'm
not.
sorry, let's
They
not
do
have
anything
many,
to get a building
I'm
lot.
sorry, Mr. Benoit, I'm just gonna ask you to keep,
I'm sorry.
sorry, that's all right. I just try to hold my meetings to make sure we don't have multiple conversations going on here. So yes, they would have to, for a possible septic system, they would have to blast to have that ground available. So that's our housekeeping challenge and walk away. Frank?
If there, in the current zoning ordinance, there is at least one affirmative statement in here that says that any site disturbance, non-development, or activities that alter water courses shall be designed and performed reasonably to prevent increased runoff, soil loss, and erosion from the site. That's something you could enforce now if that is at issue, whether or not there is a building permit or not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think you have to have a building permit to be subject to zoning ordinance.
Right, and I'm sort of just establishing a point in where they are in their project and what they're doing and what their intent is.
But I guess, even though there's a lot of shalls in this ordinance, there is at least one thing that you have to do. It's how you enforce it is a separate question.
Right. Okay, so
Or
that,
discuss.
The rose kind of.
oh,
I just
first,
have a question is, what is the damage or harm done to the butter from the blasting? I'm just trying to understand.
and I guess that is a good question.
Right now, no damage. You have a noise ordinance that governs blasting, but it's not that bad. Blasting is one of the noise things. By the way, the firecracker ordinance.
Yeah.
Do a firecracker, but you can blast all you want. But anyway, no, I mean, it's too late for me. I'm really bringing this up because I do think the town, you know, you're going to have more rain events as we've had around here. Just look at Vermont too. And, you know, you're going to have more of that. And like I said, you're going to have more development on these steep slopes that require blasting. And it should be governed by the town. Too late for me. If there's a problem, I end up with damages and I pursue the damages. It's too late. I mean, I'm not asking you to do anything for this homeowner right now because you'll be done in a few days. And, you know, I look at it as a lesson learned. And I'm back. I was a lawyer for 40 years in Rhode Island. As I said, I worked with cities, towns, ordinances, bond council. You know, I'm happy to help the town out on a volunteer basis with language. If you want to, you know, strengthen the ordinance, I'm happy to help out. I just think it's something in the future that needs to be addressed. Right now, it's like there's no teeth in it and nothing happens.
And keep in touch with us through the office if there are any disturbances that you feel are harmful to the abutting properties, including yourselves, and hopefully there won't be any other, you know, problems in your property as well. So, you know, keep in touch.
Yeah,
Are you full-time residents here now, or part-time residents, or full?
Yes, we're part-time. We've had our home for 15 years. We used to come up here from the mid-'70s and we love the area.
Great. Well, I was just wondering if you were full-time, you could join the planning board or the
No, I'm part-time.
Wait on that.
I serve my duty in other places. I'm done.
Did you have a comment, Bob?
Well, I think that the timeliness of the conversation is around the sign of things now and the complexion. I know there was a point where there were a couple of homes up on the sides of the valley, and people were kind of like alarmed about the first few that went up, and we had discussions around that, and I think that that's only going to be more and more prevalent as buildable lots down low get we get saturated and don't have a lot of building space. And of course, it's attractive to people that have the means to do what they need to do to put a house on a slope side. So I think it's probably warranted to maybe bring this to our planning board chair's attention, that, you know, the discussion did kind of spread out and talk about, you know, future projects and how maybe something a little more encompassing around noises and blasting and something that, you know, can real, you know, maybe it's just adding a 3D on there or whatever it is, you know, another paragraph in the ordinance to address this issue. It's probably timely to at least have that discussion. And I know that there's enough people on the planning board that have a lot of history here in town, and certainly would understand the need to maybe take another look at this and from that perspective.
Agreed. And since you're the liaison to the planning board, you got firsthand information.
Yeah, and I would say if we could contact Bill and recommend that this be placed on their agenda at the next available spot in an upcoming meeting. You know, I don't know if his agenda's full for the next meeting, but if it's not, maybe there's an opportunity to add it.
Yeah, agreed.
I guess I'd almost say it almost needs to be a blasting ordinance, you know, like the intent of the site service office is more focused on, as Bob said, soil erosion and those things. This is not the first lot that's been blasted on, and not the first lot that's been blasted on this summer. It's just it hasn't been used, you know, people, you know, up the side of North Hampshire Ridge, our septic design.
Yeah.
That's all ledge up there, so
Yeah.
people could put their house down low and avoid a lot of that, but they have the resources to put it at the top of the hill and then they have to blast really expensive driveways. But so it's really more of a blasting thing in this case, because if you blasting, the ground's not.
Are you aware of towns that have specific blasting ordinances, or have you ever seen one?
I am.
Locally, I have not seen that. I just know from preparing plans for all the projects, when we put plans together, we usually have a specification for blasting, you know, monitoring the ground, make sure you're not going to disturb the neighbors, you know, foundations and those things, but noise is a part of blasting, so you're going to do it that way.
Well, the reason I ask is I'm not an original thinker, and I don't like making things up from scratch if I don't have to. And so if there are ordinances that exist, please pass them along to the town office, and we'll share them with the planning board. And that's going to be maybe helpful to get us started.
Page and blasting, and Google it, it'll pull up. I in 5 minutes got a bunch of towns that have blasting ordinances. I don't think yours is bad. It just doesn't have any teeth in it.
Well, we don't have one,
So, you know, you could punch that in, you're going to get a bunch of local not the local towns right here, but throughout New Hampshire, there's many blasting ordinances.
So it may end up that we revise our current ordinance, or we write a brand new ordinance, and we leave that up to the planning board to do their
what the
job
planning
on
board
that.
recommends, any change at all.
And again, thank you for bringing this up to us, because we're just looking to make sure we do, times change, obviously, like you said, this is not going to be the last one that brings blasting equipment, so.
Thank you for putting it on the
Thank you.
agenda promptly. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Anything else?
Is there any way that you're going to have any problems with your lot based on what's happened so far? Has it been okay? I'm just curious.
So far, so good.
Okay.
I mean, you might want to...
Cracks?
Well, so far, so good. Well,
Okay.
cracks are a different story, but I'm worried just about erosion of water, the roadway washing out because of all these changes and all of that. So far, so good. So it's too late for me, and I'm not asking, and I certainly would have a neighbor who's not happy with me if I was asking for stop work order and all that other business, because the reality is they're like halfway done, and so be it. If I have damages, I'll do what I have to do.
Okay.
And I'm open, it's not a problem.
Thank you again for being here and bringing this to our attention. Thanks, Burr and Frank. I appreciate your input on that and your history. All right, no motions on that, but we'll move forward. And next item is the fee schedule updates. So we have some old fees.
Waited for you on this one.
You waited for me. I saw that.
Yeah,
How
it's
about
the
that? You waited for me on the numbers. I appreciate that. Copies for you. All right. So we have some old rates for copying. When folks come into the office and want to be charged, or not want to be, but need to be charged for copying, we have 25 cents for a double-sided copy, 50 cents for an 8.5 by 14, $1 for 11 by 17. So, and then $1 for a tax card and $5 for a septic plan. So this has not been revisited for many, many, many years, and certainly Staples is a lot more expensive than that. But we also have to drive down to Staples to make copies often, or sometimes I'll say. So that gets into mileage and things like that. So at the very least, we should update the fees here. We certainly aren't going to be a revenue center for this at the dollar amounts we're charging, but I think it will maybe make people think twice about going here or Staples, where I would rather have them use their time. So, any thoughts on the amounts? Why did you wait for me?
Well, because you're sort of liaison for the office.
Got you.
I figured that this would be the right thing to do.
I think
It was a big decision to go
yeah.
from 25 cents to 50 cents for
I know.
a double-sided copy.
And you said Staples charges $3.49 for a black and white copy. Now, it used to be, now it's $5.85, and that's for the septic plans.
Yes.
And so we were charging $5, so we were charging less than Staples, and that's because it's on a larger paper and it has color and stuff, right?
And we have to drive down to Staples.
Yeah.
You can't make those copies here.
So at the very least, I think that makes a lot of sense to have it at $10 for a septic plan, because at $5.85 at Staples plus the mileage, we're up there. So
Yeah.
at least on that one, I have no problem bumping it to $10. Any thoughts otherwise?
That's good.
Okay, and then the others are, while they seem significant because they're large percentage changes, I really don't think it's illogical to have to up the amounts. So,
I did have one question
yes.
about the fire department fire reports that was added
Yeah.
per J, and it's $30. Is that an increase?
No, that's his policy.
Okay,
We just didn't
We just
have it on
wanted
this
it.
fee schedule, and we should.
great,
we should
great.
include
So he's
that.
not proposing to
Yeah.
raise that?
Okay.
Oh, great. All right, thank you.
And then there are, so that was on the page one, and thanks for bringing that. So on page two, we did have a few other fee changes for some fees for recording. And I'm not sure where the dollars came up for those increases, because they're from $12.49 up to $12.68.
That's on the registry, those are their fees.
Their
the
fees,
Carroll
okay.
County Registry of Deeds.
So we're just updating
So
the
we're
records based
updating,
on
right,
that.
Yeah, and then we're gonna add, please check the registry website for updated fees, because they change their fees occasionally.
Got you.
Whenever postage changes,
Yeah.
so they do change.
I could not believe how expensive postage was. I just had to do a mailing, and I thought it was 60-some cents, and it's 73 cents or 74. Crazy. So by saying, please check registry fees for any changes, will that allow us to not have to make motions to increase these
I think
if
so.
they do increase?
Yeah,
I would
so.
think that we can make a motion now to increase them and record them and say that this will be according to the registry fees that are online. So they'll increase as those increase online. Are you guys okay with that?
Sure. Yep.
All right, and then the bottom ones are the ones that we just discussed here. So I will make a motion to increase the miscellaneous copy fees to 50 cents for 8.5 by 11 double-sided, 75 cents for 8.5 by 14 double-sided, 11 by 17 double-sided will be increased to $1.50. The tax card double-sided will stay at $1. A septic plan will increase from $5 to $10. We are adding verbiage that says the Carroll County Registry of Deeds registry fees will be we will be charging according to what the registry fees are. And any subsequent changes per that website will be updated on our fees as noted. And we are also adding the information about how much fire reports cost which is not changing the amounts, it's simply adding the verbiage.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ah. No wonder you waited for me. Thanks, guys. Taking one for the team there. All right, ZBA resignation. Dave Mateski and his wife Helene are moving out of town in September, and they have been wonderful, wonderful servants to the town in many capacities. So Dave is resigning from the Zoning Board of Adjustments, and we want to thank him for his years of service and for accepting his resignation. And we will miss them in town for sure.
He's been at it since 2014, is that?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and he and his wife have just been, like I said, they've volunteered in so many different capacities. It's been really wonderful.
Was Helene is on trustee of the trust funds?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
And David was a trustee before Helene,
right,
so he's been doing a lot for the town.
yes.
Really good job.
And Frank left, but how many openings do we have with the ZBA? Do you know?
I think one now.
One.
I think one.
Thank you all.
You put it out on e-news or something, Julie?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Fantastic. All right. See how many opportunities there are for you when you move up full time?
It's an easy target.
All right, the next is a cemetery lot agreement, and this is for $200 for the lots 884 and 885 in the village cemetery. So I will make a motion to accept the $200 for those two plots.
Second.
Okay.
Frank will second that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Go, sir. There's that. And this is an FYI, there's a Jackson Volunteer Opportunity Evening. That's the key subject today. So Meg Murphy from our library is hosting a Jackson Volunteer Opportunity Evening on Wednesday, September 18th from 5 to 6:30. It's a chance for community members to learn about the myriad of volunteer opportunities here in Jackson. This is part of their Digging into Democracy series that they're presenting throughout the year. And so they're inviting folks to attend and promote their committee and organization, as well as folks to come by and browse through what the different committees and organizations are, connect with local folks who have been participating already and those that are interested. So any of the organizations that want to attend can contact Meg at, her email is meg@jacksonlibrary.org. And she's going to advertise this as well on probably e-news and maybe Jackson Bridge, since they also host that. So that's a really awesome organization. And this is also sponsored by Greg Marcello, who is the program coordinator of Friends of the Whitney Community Center, which also hosts and many programs. And they just had the second Jackson Pictures show on Sunday night. So lots of great opportunities. Last time we counted, we had well over 125 individuals in Jackson that volunteer in at least one organization. So we have quite a community, and that'll be a fun event for sure. So.
Those are fun nights. I know we've had those kind of in the past, not sponsored by the library, but it's great to see that happening.
Yes.
I'm going to be out of town, but I would love to have been in town to go to that. I think they're wonderful ways to really share opportunities for people. I mean, the more the volunteers do what they do for a reason, and typically it just ends up bonding them even closer to the town.
What was the date of that?
September 18th?
Yep, September 18th from 5
It's a
to
Wednesday.
6:30, yes. And also, we did a volunteer breakfast probably about 6 months ago at the Whitney Center. And I think we're gonna try to do that again next year and sort of make it an annual event to thank all the volunteers. So that was really fun and the pancakes were amazing. Who doesn't like pancakes? So, fantastic. All right, trustee of the trust funds funding and withdrawal. So the Jackson Select Board authorizes the transfer of $110,500 to be deposited into the expendable trust funds per the warrant articles listed below. Police Cruiser Capital Reserve Fund 0027, $15,500. Road Reconstruction Capital Reserve Fund 0064, $95,000. Motion?
So moved.
Second? I will second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
You said second. That's what-
I know, seen if I can catch you off
Question.
guard. There we go. Is that a question or a motion?
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. This is the long one. Okay. So the Jackson Select Board are requesting the following withdrawals from trust funds as indicated below. $924.25 from the Balloon Groundwater Expendable Trust Fund 0071 for invoice 31401 dated June 30th, 2024 for HEB Engineers. $2,945 from the Town Office Equipment Expendable Trust Fund 0047, invoice 244018, dated July 24th, 2024 to North Ledge Technologies Incorporated. $1,017.50 from the Bridge Repair Expendable Trust Fund 0034, invoices 1330 and 1338 to Civil Solutions. And then $30,800 from the Road Reconstruction Capital Reserve Fund 0064, invoice 3881 for Central Asphalt Paving Company LLC. $10,480.60 from the Police Cruiser Capital Reserve Fund 0027, invoice number 091085 and 091084, both to Ospey Mountain Electronics. And the last is $159.97 from the Mark Hammer Police Department Fund 0073 for invoice 091084 for Ospey Mountain Electronics.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Mr. McCullough. Thank you. All right. Fire station, how's it going, Mr. Bob?
It's going well.
Very good.
We have met our benchmark of having 50% of the preliminary cost estimate done, and that was originally laid out on the timeline to be squared away by the week of August 1st, and that has happened. Our last meeting, we talked about getting a public informational night sooner rather than later, and as soon as we possibly can. And so we had all reached an agreement that it made sense to do it on September 10th. But September 10th is primary voting day, so we circled back around since last meeting, and trying to get everybody a time when everybody is available was paramount. The town engineer, architecture, mechanical engineering, plumbing, people that will have their estimates released. I don't know that they'll actually be in the room because they're subcontractors, but our John Ritchie, who's from Ritchie Construction, will be here to answer any questions on the work that's been done as well. And Jay and Tim Scott and Anthony Giovanni are the two community members who've been serving on in that capacity on that group. And so we circled back around and had a conversation, and it looks like really the upcoming date that would make the most sense would be Tuesday, October 1st. So I wanted to throw that out and see how that aligned with your schedules. And again, this would be a public informational night.
Mhm.
6 was kind of what
Yeah.
people were thinking. And, I'm certainly not going to be taking on a big role that evening, but it's important for us to be there for sure, if you can swing it. And then, between John and Jay and Burr and Mike, I think we'll have all of the content level experts here to share what their experience has been in putting together the design and engineering study that the voters put forward for us to do last March.
And that will be here?
We talked about it, and everybody felt like, yeah, this makes the
Yeah.
most sense. I mean, if somebody starts to hear something bizarre, like there's going to be 100 people,
Yeah.
we can always move
Move
the
to the
venue.
Whitney,
But
yeah.
I would think it would be adequate, and so did most people. We did have that conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I think the date works fine for me. 6 o'clock I think is good because you will get folks that are working and can come
Yeah.
after work. And yeah, we'll keep our ears to the ground for attendance. And if we have to look at the Whitney Center, we can do that.
Great.
Fantastic. I look forward to that. It's going to be exciting to see the
Can I
progress.
just ask a question? Did you mention that half the cost has been figured out up to now?
That's
That's
the
an estimate?
timeline, week of August 1st, 50% of the preliminary cost estimate to be complete. We're looking at 100% of the design development plans and pricing completed by the week of October 25th.
Mm-hmm. But you said there's half, so do we know what half of the...
No, we don't.
There's no amount. Okay, that's all. Just
He has
sure.
dropped off a lot of the plans to the town office already, so we have everything that he has. And as far as I'm concerned, they're public documents, anybody that wants to have a look at it.
Yeah. Sure.
I might clarify
Sure.
a little bit there. He's doing an estimate based on 50% complete designs, not 50% of the cost.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
the design is now
It's-
50% complete. So
Okay.
so John Ritchie's thing is he's gonna put together an estimate based on that, see where we're at, and then before we finalize things, we need to make some adjustments. Now's the time to make it before we finish the design.
Makes sense. Good.
Great.
Good job. Good.
All right.
And we could be close to 100% by October. That, I think, was one of the advantages of waiting an extra month.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't expect to be there, but we'll be probably able to say with a lot higher level of surety just what that cost estimate would be by then.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
Bert, do you have anything to add on your experience with the group? I know you're here, and I'd just like him to
No,
too, but
I think it's a great group. I think Mike's been really good. The mechanical engineers they're outstanding, I think. And the whole team together, I think, is a pretty competent group of people. So I think it's worked out well having John Ritchie there doing pulling this all together.
He's
Real,
certainly got
real
the
cost, right?
experience.
So
Yeah.
it won't be the big surprise
Right.
when we get bids come in. We'll have
Right.
the cost before we know. So
yeah,
Right.
thanks for sharing that.
We saw what happened on the Valley Cross Brook. when we did
Don't even
the-
want to go there. It's not on the agenda tonight. It'll be on the next one.
Yeah, boy.
Are we
Yeah.
going to talk about that all tonight, Valley Cross? I thought you were going to want a little update or something on that.
I would love an update. I'm gonna go through the rest of the agenda because we have a 4:30 meeting and see if we have a little bit of time. So I think we should be able to buzz through this.
Okay.
The short-term rentals, there is a pending approval, and we need to deny this application because we have not gotten verification of the advertisement.
Well, he is in the advertisement, and he's advertising 2 units. And you can only advertise one. You can live in 1 unit and rent out another unit, but
Okay.
he's advertising the 2 units.
So we're going to make a motion to deny the short-term rental application for Sear, is it CY or
Yeah.
Sear, for 97C Dinsmore Road, R14 Lot 5-3C, because they're advertising for 2 units.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Okay.
We addressed that last month and there hadn't been any,
Well, he didn't have his advertisement last month.
And now
Oh,
now we have the
Yeah,
advertisement
so
and it's not.
He sent me the
got it.
advertisement. And it is, because the planning board questioned it, so
Yeah,
Okay.
he's
thanks.
advertising 2.
And I'm guessing there are no issues on the building permits because there are no notes from Kevin, so there, looks like we're up to number 98 in building permits. If there are 2 renewals on here and then some modifications and no new homes, so. Any public comments?
I said my piece. I'll just get to Ms. White, list of some of the towns that have ordinances.
Yes.
I think your ordinance is actually in pretty good shape. It just needs to be put into shape to have a clear enforcement mechanism and procedure so things happen in a certain order.
Great.
And I volunteer, like I said, to help with that. I'll give her all my
Thank you.
contact information.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'm happy to help with the planning board too.
Yeah,
Great.
it's,
Yeah.
it would be the planning board that
Yeah.
would change
So,
the.
Yes.
Like I said, I did this
Great.
for 40
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. All right. And then any other notes? All right, before I announce the meeting times, how is that Valley Crossroad Bridge going?
Yeah, I just wanted to go over the schedule. I had stopped by and was a little surprised that they weren't as far along as I thought. They had a lot of work to go between now and weather turn. And then I heard from Julie the next day that you and asked the same question.
Yes.
Or whatever. So I checked in with Jason Ross, at HEB, and he's reviewed the schedule and said they're about 2 to 3 weeks behind schedule. But he thought there was some room to make up that. He's requested a new schedule for them to ask him how they're going to get back on schedule again. He hasn't received it yet. So we're kind of checking in on to figure out how they're going to do that. It's been extremely light crew. A lot of times it's been just the owner, George Austin, and one other person working at the bridge. One of the local workmen I'd stopped by, one of the 2 people that were on site had said that they're finishing up another job somewhere else, and then more people will come in to be able to help and get things going again. But I had the same concern. There's a lot of concrete work left to go.
Yeah.
The weather's cold. They got to put everything's got to get a veneer of stone on it. And then they can start putting the stringers and putting the bridge deck and concrete again. You know what I mean? So.
Will you just keep me up to date on that through emails that I can share maybe at the next meeting? And then if you have concerns when you get the update, just ask to be put on the agenda. And we're not having another meeting until September 24th because of Election Day. So certainly just keep us up to date as much as you can. And if we do have concerns, we may call a special meeting to have HEB or even GPI come, whoever you think needs to be here.
And then the other 2 really quick issues were someone had complained that there was a piece of ledge that was blasted by one of the things. I didn't see that, and that it's between where they put a footing in and where a footing's going in.
Yeah,
So they told me that that's going to actually get filled in with concrete, so that
Okay.
sharp edge will disappear.
Okay.
There are other existing sharp edges that have mold and stuff growing on that were there from the beginning, so we're not planning on touching those. So that's, people ask me, you can say at least the new edge, the one they call it, is going to be disappeared by
Okay.
filled in with concrete. And then the last one was the rosettes on
yes.
the thing. I just was going to get some feedback so I could give that to Steve who's reviewing it.
They just look pretty modern compared to the old ones. So I was just curious, are the old ones not able to be used on the new bridge?
Well, the way the contract was written, the contractor has the option of using whatever he wants from the old one or
Yeah.
providing new ones. But if if you don't like the ones that they're proposing, we can say we don't like those, and so you're gonna have to make ones that look like the old ones.
What did you guys think of them?
I thought they were fine.
Okay.
I don't typically get into that kind of level of
Yeah.
oversight.
I was just
And I
concerned,
thought it was
not
fine.
concerned, I guess, as much as curious if Anne had any requests, because I know she wanted the rosettes somehow, either at the Historical Society or on the bridge. So if they're not going to use them, and this is not a huge deal, like I said, I don't know how involved I need to be in this, but
Yeah.
if they're not going to be used, if they could be preserved in the Historical Society or something like that. So,
I mean, they have to be somehow removed from,
oh, okay.
Right.
you know, I mean, they're welded to the old rails, I believe.
For some reason,
Yeah.
I thought they were able to be removed, so.
Yeah, I'll double check this.
Listen, if we're behind on the bridge, the rosettes are not my concern, so
Yeah.
good. Not concerned. Any thoughts from you? Rosettes or rosettes?
No, I was ambivalent about them. I thought
Okay.
they look fine, but whatever direction we go, but let's get this bridge done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Years.
Yep. Okay.
So
Yeah, go with it.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Burr. All right, upcoming meetings and notices. Tuesday, September 10th is the state primary election at 8 a.m. through 7 p.m. at the Whitney Center. Please come and vote. It's really important for our state, for our primaries, and then, of course, we have the big one coming up in November. So that is September 10th, 8 to 7 at the Whitney Center. Saturday, September 21st is the Conway Household Hazardous Waste Day from 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And there will be more information going out on e-news on that. So just mark your calendars if you do have hazardous waste. The next select board meeting is Tuesday, September 24th at 3:30 p.m. here. And then, as Bob mentioned, Tuesday, October 1st is the public hearing on the new fire station, and that will be at 6 o'clock at the town office here. No reason for a non-public, so I will make a motion to adjourn at 4:26.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very
Thanks for
much.
coming.
Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And,
Take care.
And thank you, Burr. Appreciate
Yeah,
you
thank
coming.
you.
Bring them in.
Yep, we're
Sure.
set.
It's always nice to have
Thank you for hearing us out.
Oh.
Really appreciate
That's what we're
your
here for.